Okay, so everyone, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so let me show you what we're going to do tonight. Probably a little bit different than everything else we've been doing, which is kind of good to give us a little bit of a break. So tonight's lesson is going to be all about photo retouching. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen, doctored up photos of celebrities, etc. And so we're just going to take a little peek into that world, and not necessarily for celebrities, but it's also good to use when we're doing if you're touching up like old photos that might have rips and tears and some blemishes in it. So it's actually kind of good. But we're going to do two things tonight. I'm going to show you 3 editing tools in Photoshop, and and then the second part of the lesson, we're going to do something called frequency separation. Okay, it sounds like a fancy term, but basically what it does is it allows you, instead of editing the picture as a single image, it lets you separate the highs and the lows from the picture. What I mean by highs and lows, I mean the textures and the tones. Basically, the texture of the background of the image and the tone, which is basically the colors of the image. So you can edit them separately, and usually you can come out with a better look if that kind of a technique warrants. So, and we're actually going to do that. So let me just show you a quick slideshow of just 2-3 slides here, just to show you what we're going to do. So I'm going to take this picture, and we're going to use those 3 tools that I'm going to show you tonight to do some editing on this picture. And the goal of this lesson here is to try to make this person look younger. Okay, by kind of playing around with the wrinkles on her face and her neck and etc. And what we want to do is make her look something like that. Okay, so I think if you step back and look, you could she probably lost 15 or 20 years off her look just by playing around in Photoshop. So we're going to do this. That's the first part of the lesson. Second part of the lesson is that frequency separation that I just told you about. So we're going to take a picture like this, where there's a lot of texture in the skin. If you see forehead, nose, cheek, there's a lot of texture, but there's all these blemishes that are hiding, that are on top of that, I should say. And if we edited this picture directly, we'd be editing, like for instance, if we wanted to get rid of these blemishes, we'd be editing the blemishes and the underlying texture. So what we want to do is we want to separate that tone, the colors, and the texture, and then edit them separately, so we don't destroy one or the other depending on what we're working on, the tone or the texture. And what we want to wind up with is something that looks like this. And as you can see, the difference between the 2 pictures is we've maintained the texture of the skin here in the forehead, the nose, cheeks, even the chin, but those blemishes are gone. Okay, so is everybody seeing that? Is that clear enough for you to see? No, can you see that?
Looks good.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah. All right. So we'll be doing that, and I'm just gonna. I think I have 2 videos of mine that will show you how to do both of these techniques. But let's start with the first one. And I always ask this question because I usually have a younger audience, like I'm sure you folks are. Does anybody have any idea who that is? Any guesses?
She looks a little familiar, but I could not say. I have no idea.
Okay. Fair enough. Anybody else want to take a crack at it? Yeah, you guys are way too young. This is This is Caroline Kennedy. She's the daughter of President John Kennedy. way beyond your years. So I always ask the question because once in a while somebody will actually get the answer. Okay. So let's start out. So what we're trying to do, like I showed you before, is we're trying to manipulate this picture in such a way that we basically make her look like a younger version of herself. And we're going to use 3 tools, and they're over here on the left. If you see this tool over here, it looks like kind of a Band-Aid. If you right mouse click, you'll see there are 5 tools that come up. We're going to look at the first 3 tools: spot healing brush, and the patch tool. Okay. So again, before we get started, I like to always take a copy of the original, so we always have that. In today's lesson, we're actually going to use it for something, but let's make a copy of that. So I have a background copy of the image, and I'll just call this original. Actually, yeah, let's call it original. Okay, so there's our original image. Okay, so let's start out with the first tool. It's kind of just like what it says. It's called the spot healing tool. So basically, what it'll do is I'm going to select it, spot healing tool, and what it'll do is if you find a blemish that's kind of small and you click on it, it'll evaluate the pixels that surround that spot that you clicked on, and it will do a calculation in such that it'll hide what you clicked on based on the surrounding pixels. Okay, if you get what that means, it's basically evaluating what's around the image that you have or the image that you clicked on, and trying to hide it by using the pixels around it. Now, in this particular picture, there aren't a lot of those, so I'm going to show you another picture, but I just want to show you how it works. See this little spot right here? If I click it, it looks like it just went away, and that's because it evaluated the pixels around it. Like I said, there aren't many here, so let me just bring in another picture that'll make this more clear for you. I do want you to learn this tool. It's very simple. Hang on. Okay.
Did we use this tool on the first lesson when we were doing the picture in Norway to like hide the light posts and stuff like that?
Yes, you could have. You could have. I forget, in Norway, did they ask you to do that? I don't recall.
I thought so.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, and did they use this particular tool?
Yeah, it was
No.
this.
So, they could have used any one of these 3 tools would have done that. And if we have time, we could even bring up the Norway picture, and I'll show you how to do that. But yeah, that Norway lesson was just to get you guys to get your feet wet in Photoshop. So I don't recall having to do that, but it's good. It's good. So let me bring up this picture. So this, I just did a search on acne, okay? And this is like a perfect use for this spot healing brush tool, because let me zoom in here. Like for instance, down here, I'm just going to come down here and click. And like I said, it just evaluates the surrounding area and it just blends it in. My suggestion would be do it in small chunks. Do it in small chunks, because if you do it in larger chunks, it'll evaluate too much. You want it to evaluate what's in the general area of whatever you're clicking on. So give me a minute here. I'm just going to click around, and you can see how easy this tool is to use. Okay. And in a second, I'll just swap the 2 images back and forth, and you'll see just in a couple of minutes, what kind of movement you can have in the improvement of the picture. So I'm gonna go a little bit quicker here. You see, it's getting rid of these. It's a great tool for, like I said, like spot healing. Spot little spots. Big spots, different kind of a situation. And we're going to get into those bigger spots when we go back to our lesson here to get rid of those wrinkles. Okay. Okay. So again, you just saw me a couple of minutes here. I just clicked around, and I'm making sure I'm staying away from like busy areas, so that when I click, the surrounding pixels are basically something that can blend in, and you get a feel for it. So here's what I just did, and it took me 2 minutes to do that. And now I'm going to put the other image back on top of it. And you can see, here's the difference. There's the after, here's the before. So as long as you take away, the concept of you can get small things healed with this tool, and that's really all I wanted to get across for you tonight. Any questions? I don't know, did anybody ever know that there was a tool like this in Photoshop? Anyone?
I knew there was a tool. I just never seen it done. I just found that very amusing.
Yeah. So, and you can do that in a lot of areas. Yeah, but yeah. So I'm just going to close this. All right, and we're gonna talk about the other tools. And when you're doing what I'm doing here, this photo retouching, don't think you have to use only one tool. Bounce around with the tools as you see fit. Like even something as simple as maybe a little blemish over here on the nose, which is really hard to spot, you can just get rid of it. Over here too, all these little highlighty areas, you can get rid of it. Okay. But let me show you the next tool. Okay, and the next tool is called the Healing Brush tool. And you have to be a little careful with this one, because what it does is it allows you to take one part of the image and basically paint it into another part of the image. Okay, so let me show you how this works. I'm going to tell you ahead of time that for this particular image, I'm going to use the patch tool more than any other tool. And again, we're going to get that in a second. But I just want to show you how this one actually works. So, for instance, down here where her chin is, it's a little rough, say. Okay, I don't know how to say it, but her cheek looks pretty smooth. Okay, so what we're going to try to do is see if we can move some of this over down to here. And the way we do that is we use this healing brush tool. Okay. And what you do with the healing brush tool is you basically pick a spot on your picture, hold the Alt key down. I guess that's Option for Mac. Am I right on that, Mac guys? Alt and Option are the same. Hold the Alt key down or Option on a Mac and click. And what it'll do is it'll use that spot that I just clicked on as a reference. But then I can move anywhere I want on the image and start painting. Now see the X? It's basically painting based on my mouse movement on the chin. Okay, so you have to watch it, because if I want to do a little bit more to the right on the chin, if I go right, I'm going to go right off into the hair, and the hair is going to come in. See that? So you have to keep your eye on that. All right? I'm going to do it again. I just backed out. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to click over here. That's my reference point. And I'm going to come down and start painting here. The other nice thing is that if you notice inside the circle, it'll actually show you what it's going to paint in before you actually do it. So you can start painting it in, and it's following if you follow where the X is, it's moving around. Now, if you still want to continue, just resample. Come back again, click Alt and click, and it'll reset where that X is, and just start painting again. Okay? Questions? Very powerful tool, but you have to pay attention to how the skin, in this particular case, how the skin tones change throughout the picture. So for instance, I took from this area that's kind of reddish, into a lighter area, again, you probably can't pick it up, but it doesn't really match up so well. So you have to play around with it a little bit. But again, another tool in your toolbox that you could bring up in a certain situation, okay? And it really is powerful. For instance, if you wanted to, this is going to be really odd, but I'm going to show it to you here. Let me go back to my healing brush, okay? If you wanted to, you can take, let me see if this will work. If I wanted to, I could paint another eye in over here. Okay? So that's how it works, all right? That's odd, but I just wanted to show you, okay? All right. Any questions about the spot healing brush tool? Okay. Again, we're not going to use those two tools as much, but the images that you do for your homework tonight, you may want to use them. Okay, and I just wanted to point them out. So now let's go over to the patch tool. This is kind of my favorite tool to use in situations like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the patch tool. Now the patch tool works like this. You select the patch tool, and then you highlight the area that you want to edit. So I'm just going to take this wrinkle and highlight. That's what I want to highlight. And then you just grab that selection and move it somewhere else on your picture that you think you want to substitute it for, and then just drop it there. And then as you can see, it's gone. All right. So here, let's do it again. That's what it looked like before, and this is what it looked like after. Pretty good. Okay? Let me just do it a few more times, and then you'll see a drastic change in the picture. Now, I keep on using this area here or this area here because they look like kind of nice and smooth. So, you know, take advantage of it. You don't have, just because you make a selection doesn't mean you can't just do it in the same area. So I'm just going to do this real quick, and then we'll we'll evaluate where we are really quickly. So I'm just, and you can see I'm moving fairly quickly, and you may not think much is happening, but when I show you the original, you'll see that there was kind of a drastic change. So I'm only doing, you know, this left side of her face for now, but let's see what we actually did in the span of a couple of minutes here. So here's where we are, and here's where we were. Okay, actually, let me zoom out a little bit. It might be easier. Here's where we are. And this is where we started out with. So fairly powerful tool, and makes a really interesting improvement for what we're trying to do tonight, which is trying to make her look a little younger. Okay. Any questions? Any questions about this? They're kind of easy tools to use and learn. But let me ask, does anybody have any questions? By the way, hello, Felix. I saw you joined.
Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. I didn't see when you joined. Did you catch most of this so far?
Yeah, I just missed like 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Good. You didn't miss much. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, any questions so far about the patch tool? Okay. So bear with me. We're going to use the patch tool to see if we can move this all along a little bit quicker. So just bear with me. I'm just going to use the patch tool. There may be a situation where I'll say, hey, you know, I may need to use the spot healing brush or the healing brush, but for the most part, I think I can do a lot of this editing without it. Okay, and you can see I'm moving fairly quickly, and again, let me just stop, and we'll see where we're at. Now, from you folks looking at this, would you say she's starting to look younger already? Would everybody agree with that?
Quite a bit, yeah.
Quite a bit. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep on going then. because there's one tool at the end that I'm going to show you that I think everybody will like. One little filter, I should say. So again, I'm just trying to. I'm not overdoing it. I'm not taking any really huge areas. It's better to work in small chunks here. All right, I'm going to take this, and her nose is pretty smooth. You know, actually, that didn't look pretty good. Let me try it again. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to do this a little bit more here. And you can see how it's kind of smoothing out. She's starting to look a little bit younger. And don't forget, you know, if you're trying to make her look younger too, you know, try to get rid of some of these wrinkles in her neck. That might help too, down here. All right. Again, you don't have to overdo it. So what I'm going to do to show our progress is I'm going to take a copy of the original image. I'm going to copy it, start a new project, so we could kind of map our progress. So I'm going to paste that in there, and I'm going to increase the size of our canvas. I think you've seen me do this a lot of times. So what I'm doing here is I'm just increasing the area that I'm going to work in. Right now, it's just the size of the picture. So I'm going to increase the canvas size. And again, I think I've shown this to you before, but let me just reiterate what I'm doing here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to push this, I'm going to make a quadrant. In the upper left quadrant, I want our original picture. And I just want to make the square a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to double the size of our width, and I'm going to double the size of our height. Okay? And it's going to create an area like that. So my original image was this size. Now it's the size where this black area is. That's all I just did. So what I'm going to do is along this lesson, I'm going to take snapshots of it, and we're going to paste it in so we can see our progress along the way. Okay? So, okay, so there's our picture so far, and I'm going to take a snapshot of this right now. I'm going to edit, copy, merge. So I'm going to copy the merged layers here into that other image so we have a second image, and I'm just going to put it up over here. So there's image number 2, and you can see already, and I'll zoom in, drastic change in not a lot of time. Okay. So I think she looks significantly younger. I don't know if anybody wants to take a guess at how much younger you think she looks, but I'd say at least 15 years younger, if not more. So let's try to use some of the techniques and tools that we've used in the past to make this look even better. Okay, so let's go back, and what do you think we can do using our adjustment layers to make her look a little bit better? I'll give you a hint. You know, she's not that she's so old here, but she's older, so her lipstick might be a different color than a younger person would wear, and not that she has an ability to change this, but her eye color looks a little dull right now, so we can actually change that around if we want it. Okay, so any suggestions? Anyone? Brandon, any suggestions?
I don't know.
You know what? I'll help you out here. So why don't we just let's change the color of her lips, and let's change the color of her eyes, and let's see how that looks. Okay. So
Don't we need to do what we did in the on the colorization project for that?
that's correct. We're just because this is colorized doesn't mean we can't add color to it. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to grab my quick selection tool, and not my quick selection tool. I'm going to grab my lasso tool, and I'm going to just make a little selection there. and I'm going to add a solid color adjustment layer. I'm going to pick some kind of red, which we can change anytime we want. And I'm going to add some color to it, and we'll have to come up with a color that we think matches. But right now, color doesn't matter. We just want to get something there on the lips. And if I knew how to paint, it would be better. So let's at least go a little bit slower here. So I'm just going to color in. Again, I'm painting with white. So I'm showing through the mask right now. All right. And again, I don't know if that's, this is what the color looked like before. This is what it looked like now. I don't know if that's a good color. Nadine, you're the only woman on here. What do you think? Darker, is it okay or what?
It's perfect. I think it's good.
Perfect.
Okay, we're good. All right, good. Thanks. You saved me on that. So let's go in and do her eyes real quick then. All right. Let's make her eyes a little blue. Again, all techniques you know already that we can apply to this project. And again, as you go through your project, don't feel you're having a bag of tricks now that you're learning along the way that you can use anywhere you like. So I'm just going to randomly pick a blue out. We'll see if that works. That looks a little too purple. So let's see if we can, if we need to change it. Again, going into my mask, painting with white, and let's see if we can come up with a color that's pretty good. Okay, so again, maybe too purple, maybe too bright. Remember, we could change our opacity, make her look better. Okay. We okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That looks good.
All right, so I'm going to select this all, and I'm going to take another copy of this one. I'm going to take edit. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to move it to our little holding pin over here, so we can see. Again, now here's the third picture that we made. So we went from here to here, and let me just back off. Might be easier. Now you can see that we even improved upon that. Okay. So again, I think she looks significantly younger in this picture. I'm going to show you one more thing. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you may not, I haven't looked at my video in a while, but I don't believe it's in the video. And what this is something called Liquify. And what Liquify lets you do is it lets you manipulate any portion of the image, stretch it, move it in, move it out. And you've probably read or seen celebrities who say they photoshopped their pictures, and it's usually like to make them look thinner or something like that. And this is probably the tool that people are using to do that. And the way you get to that tool is you go to Filter, and under Filter there's something called Liquify. Now Liquify puts you in a totally different environment here. Okay, actually I made a mistake. Hold on. I actually hit Liquify while I was on an adjustment layer. Okay, and I really want to hit Liquify while I'm on the picture layer. So let me do that again. Filter, Liquify. And it should bring me right in. Okay. So here's the environment you're in. There are a lot of things you can play around with. I would say, in your leisure time, play around with them. They're actually pretty interesting. But what I want you to do is go look on the left side. There's another set of toolbars here. There's another toolbar here. One is called Forward Warp Tool. There's one called Reconstruct Tool, Smooth Tool. There's a Bloat Tool, a Pucker Tool, which you can imagine what they are. Bloat basically spreads things out. Pucker kind of pushes them in. So we're just going to look at only two of these tools. We're going to look at the Pucker tool, at the Bloat Tool, I should say, and we're going to look at this thing called Forward Warp. Now, Forward Warp, basically what it does, I'm going to do something and then I'm going to pull it back, is it lets you take an area and move it. Okay? All right? Now, this is where some of these Photoshop people get themselves in trouble. They try to do too much with it, and that's when it looks phony. Okay? So I'm not going to do that, okay? I'm going to leave it as is for now. I will give you another hint. I don't know if you remember from the colorization lesson. Remember when we were colorizing the hairline and I said to you, don't use a smaller brush because it'll make your work harder. Use a larger brush, okay? Same thing here. If you're going to try to move, like say we're going to pull in her cheeks a little bit, we don't want to use a small brush because this is what's going to happen. You're going to sit here all day trying to make things even, and it's just a pain in the neck, okay? So the same thing I told you earlier with the coloring the hairline, use a larger brush, okay? So let me just go back, okay, and use a larger brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a larger brush, and I'm not going to be making very big movements. I'm just going to move it a little. So watch this. So I'm bigger brush. I'm going to pull in her cheeks, I should say, a little bit, and I'm just going to do it a little. Almost looks like I'm not even doing anything. Okay, I'm just going to pull it in a little. Same thing with her neck, just a little, just a little. Her chin, just a little in. Okay, it doesn't even look like I'm doing much. Okay, her nose, which is not an issue here, but I'm going to pull it in, make it a little bit smaller. Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to show you what it looked like before we started and then after. So this is the after. Here's what it looked like before. Again, not big movements, but you can see, even though she looks fairly young here, now she looks even better. Does everybody agree with that? Nobody agrees.
Definitely.
Okay, definitely. Thank you, Nadine. Okay, so let's do a couple of other things, and then we'll be pretty much done. So a couple of other things you can do is we can pull her hairline down. And again, not big movements. Again, assuming she's younger, maybe her hair hasn't receded, okay, we can do that. We could even puff it up if we want it. And again, watch what you're doing. And there is a technique for like kind of freezing the background and so you don't manipulate the background. I don't know if you've seen some pictures where people Photoshop and like they're against the stairs and the stairs look curved. That's because they're not freezing the area that they're not moving around. So I just puffed up her hair a little bit. Okay. Again, here's the before and here's the after. Okay. All right. Let's do one more thing and then I think we're done. Okay. So I told you we're going to use the Bloat Tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Bloat Tool. I'm going to come over to her eyes. And again, not anything major, but I'm just going to click it twice and make her eyes look bigger. Okay. Whether we like that or not, I just wanted to show you that that's how the Bloat Tool works. Okay. Again, before, after. Okay, actually I don't like that. So let me go back. Let me just do it once, okay? I think that looks better. Okay. So that's that. So I'm gonna hit OK. All right. And we should be done at this point.
Do our eyes get smaller when we grow up? That I didn't know.
No. Your eyes don't get smaller.
I'm just like
No, I'm just emphasizing them that maybe that when you get older, maybe your eyelids aren't open as much. Again, it was really just an exercise to show you the Bloat Tool. That's all it was.
yeah.
No comment on age. So let me take a copy of this one. We'll throw it into our area over here, and then I think we're done. So there we go. So we started out with this one. Let me zoom in. We started out with this one. We made some initial edits using a little bit of the spot healing brush, but we used mostly the patch tool. Then we kind of cleaned it up using some adjustment layers and such to make it look a little bit nicer. And then we used the Liquify tool to kind of pull it in. Now I know these two look very similar, but if I put them on top of each other, and I hit it, you can see the difference. Okay, and that's without the Liquify, which looks okay, and then this is with Liquify. Okay, so that's the first part of the lesson. Any questions? Again, we're using 3 new tools. We're using spot healing brush, and patch tool. All right, and then the only other thing I showed you was the Liquify filter. Okay.
My brain just wants me to get older.
Just wants you to get older, or doesn't want you to get older?
It wants me to get older, like Photoshop me older.
Oh, you want to get photoshopped older? Okay, that's a whole other lesson which I'm not teaching. So, but we'll go ahead with that. So let me just go around and ask. Anybody have any questions? Felix, Nadine, Brandon, Alex, anything? Any questions about this?
No, seems pretty simple enough to understand just by practicing a little.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll show you later. I provided a photo for you guys to work on for homework, and you could use these tools on it. So I'm curious to see how you guys make out with that. And like I said, I'll just reiterate again. I don't believe, maybe I should update the lesson, but I don't believe I put the Liquify part in. But I just wanted to let you know that it was there. Okay. Okay. If there are no questions about this, we can move on to the next part, which is frequency separation. Okay, and I'll just remind you again what I said earlier. Frequency separation basically is a way of giving you the ability to work on the tones, colors, and the textures of an image separately. In this case, what we just did here, we worked on everything together, but we weren't really playing around with the tones and textures too much, so it didn't matter. But in the next image, which is this, you'll see that there are some blemishes we want to get rid of, some places of the skin we want to get rid of. I am going to get rid of this because I was practicing it the other day. I just want to start out from scratch here for you. So we're going to start this other image. Any questions on the previous stuff or what we're going to do here? Again, I know you from a high level, it's just a matter of going through this piece, and we'll get to learn frequency separation. So let's start out with this. And again, I do have a lesson, a video on this, and it's using the same image, and it's going to use the same technique that I'm showing you right now. So just play along right now, and if you get caught when you're doing your homework forgetting something, just look at the video and you should be okay. All right. First thing you have to do is take your original image and make 2 copies. Okay. So all I'm doing is taking the original, dragging it down in the layers panel to the create new layer button, and it gives me a new layer. Or I can hit Control J, or what is it on the Mac? Command J. Okay. But I'm just going to drag them over. Okay. And now I have 3 images. And this, in the first image, or the middle image, I'm going to call it tones. And the upper image, I'm going to call it texture. Okay. So here are our 3 layers. We have our original. We're going to have 1 layer that deals with tones or the colors, and 1 layer that deals with the texture. Okay, so this is how we do it. We basically blur this middle layer and then subtract it from the texture layer. Okay, so let me just say that again. Right now, all 3 layers are exactly the same. okay? So I'm going to manipulate this tone layer, and then whatever I come up with, I'm going to subtract it from the texture layer. And what in effect it's going to do, it's going to separate the two layers. So I'm basically taking the opposite of each other, and that's how you get to the highs and the lows. In this case, the textures and the tone. Okay, sounds like mumbo jumbo, but watch me do it, and then you'll say, ah, it's pretty easy. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shut off the texture layer, and I'm going to go to the tone layer. And once I'm in the tone layer, I'm going to go up and I'm going to grab one of my filters. And there's a filter we've used before called Gaussian Blur. So I go Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Okay? So let me start it out way at the bottom here. And what I want to do on this layer is I want to move this slider to the right in such a way that I can barely see what's going on in the background, like barely see these blemishes without going way too far. What do I mean by way too far? This is what I mean by way too far, where you can't see anything, okay? So let me go back to the beginning, and I'm just going to slowly start moving this slider over. And you can start to see that it's starting to blur, but I want to get to a point where I can still basically see the face, but I can't really see the blemishes. This probably went too far, so I'm just going to back it up a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to pick something like that. So again, here are the blemishes. Here's with the blur, so I could still see where the blemishes are, but for the most part, the blemishes are blurred. Okay? Again, no exact science on this. Let's go with this. If it doesn't work, we can always change it, but I think this should be fine. Okay? So now I'm going to turn on the texture layer. Okay? And I'm going to go up to my images, drop down, and I'm going to take the option called Apply Image. Okay, and you're going to get this window here. All right, and in this window, it's going to show, you know, what the source or what the original picture is, which we're going to leave. But then it's going to have a drop down that's going to mimic all of these layers that we have over here. So we're going to see the texture layer, the tone layer, the original layer. Okay, but remember, we're in the texture layer right now. So what we want to do is we want to subtract the tone layer from the texture layer. So we select tone. And then down here, we have all of our blending modes, okay? All our 27 blending modes. One of them is called subtract. So we're going to hit subtract, and then we're going to hit OK. But before we hit OK, I want to caution everybody. Take note of these two numbers here. Scale 2, offset 128. That one I'm going to say write it down, okay? If you go in and your scale is not 2 and your offset is not 128, make it 2 and 128, or it'll mess it up. Okay? Now the reason why it's 128 is because 128 on the color scale, which is usually from 0 to 255, that's pretty much the middle. That's pretty much gray. I can't give you a good answer on what the scale is, but believe me, 2 and 128 is where you want to be. So write that one down, okay? All right, so let's just go over this real quick. I went into the texture layer. I hit Apply Image. I'm clicking on my tone layer. I'm hitting the Subtract Blending mode, and I'm making sure that we're at 2 and 128. All right, and what's going to happen is, oops, I hit the wrong thing. Hold on. I wanted to do Apply Image up here. Okay, so Image, Apply. I was actually on the wrong layer. So Image, Apply Image, and here we go. I'm on Tone, Subtract 2 and 128. Now what happens is it looks like this, which is, again, you haven't learned this. It looks like what's called a high pass filter. don't pay attention to what that means. But what we have to do is we have to change the blending mode in order for us to see the picture. So the blending mode we're going to use is called linear light. Okay. So let's just observe what happened here. We have a layer called the tone layer that looks blurry. Okay. We have a layer called the texture layer that looks, if we have it on our own, looks really way too sharp. Okay. But combined together, they look like the original. How do I know that? I'm going to group these two together. I'm going to group the texture and the tone together. I'm going to put it in a group. Okay? And now I'm going to shut off the group. No change. I'm going to shut off the original. No change. They are exactly the same image, except I've split them off into a texture layer and a tone layer. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Did I go too quick? Does everybody understand what I'm trying to get at here? Let me hear from you. Thomas, Brandon, anything?
Yeah, good.
Everybody get what I'm doing?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead. Someone have a question?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? Nadine, you okay with this?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, shoot. You know what? I just noticed there's a start recording button that I never hit. So we're going to have to do this on YouTube, okay? So I didn't realize it was there. I just thought it started recording automatically.
I think you had a backup.
Yeah, that's a good thing I had a backup. Yes, you're right. Okay. So anyway, in this case, I don't even need a backup because the video I have out there is basically what I just showed you. So I'm doing okay. Okay, so now that we basically have the image split in two, we still have the blemishes here. We still have the unevenness in the forehead and the nose and whatever. So let's go and edit it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, because it's tone we want to edit here, because the blemishes, I should say, the texture we're okay with. It's the blemishes we want to get rid of. So the way I'm going to show you to do that is I'm going to go and I'm going to grab my lasso tool, and I'm going to make a selection of the area that I want to correct. Okay? So I want to get rid of those blemishes. So before I do the next step, I want to show you using the quick mask what I actually selected. So quick mask is you either hit the Q key or you hit this little icon over here on the left below your foreground and background colors, and that's what's called quick mask. And what it does is it'll, in this case I have it selected red. Whatever is in red is not selected. Whatever is selected, you'll see in its true color. So this is the selection I just made. But look at the edges here. The edges are really sharp, okay? And that won't make what we're going to do next, which is to kind of blur the tone. It won't make it look good. So there's an option under your lasso tool. Remember, every time you pick a tool, there's options across the top. One of them is called feather, okay? So I'm going to change the feather to about, I'm just randomly picking something. Let's make it 25, okay? And then I'm going to go back into my lasso tool. I'm going to make the same selection, okay? Same selection. And I'm going to hit the quick mask. Now look at the difference, okay? It's not sharp anymore. It's very, it's graduated, okay? So when we apply what we're going to do next, which is to apply a filter or blur, it won't be obvious that we edited it, okay? So it's very important that you use a feather or it may not look real, okay? So let's do that. So I have my selection, so anything I do next will only apply to this selection. I'm going to go to Filter, Blur. Again, I'm going to select Gaussian Blur. Let me make it back to 0 here again. And I'm just going to start using my slider. And as I'm moving the slider, what you should be seeing is the blemish starting to disappear and the underlying texture start to come out. Okay? Are you starting to see that?
Yeah.
If you're not, I'll slow it down. So I'm going to leave it right there for now. But this is what it looked like before I started touching the slider, and this is what it looks like after. So if we're okay with that, which I think we are, I'm going to hit OK. I'll hit Control D to get rid of the selection.
Hello?
Yeah.
I don't hear him.
Did he mute?
Hello? Can you
It
not
doesn't
hear me?
say he muted.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can anybody?
What's going on?
His mouse is moving. Is he still instructing us or something?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
I wonder if the computer died. I mean, the screen sharing ended. I wonder if maybe his computer died and just haven't. It's lagging to show that he exited it. I'm not sure he is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know why I lost you, but I just kind of reset everything. Okay, so I don't know when the last part, when did I lose you, by the way? Did you get past this last step or not?
Yeah, right at the Gaussian blur on the blemishes.
Okay, so did you see me complete it or not? So I'll back it up if you want. Yeah, why don't I do that just to be safe? So I'll go back here, and so I'm assuming this is where you guys ended. So I used it. Did you see me talk about feathering?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm just going to show this real quick. There's our selection with the feather on it. I'm just going to hit Filter, Blur, and Gaussian Blur. And again, I'll go right back to the beginning. And I'm just going to slide it over. And as I'm sliding it over, what you should start to see is, excuse me, you should start seeing the texture coming through and the blemishes starting to disappear. Okay? And I think we're pretty much there. Okay? So this is what it looked like before, and this is what it looked like after we applied the blur. So I'm going to accept that, hit Control D to get rid of the selection. And now you can see the difference. Here's what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like now. Okay? Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
again, this is why frequency separation is really kind of cool, is because we're not at all touching the texture. Now, if there may be a situation where you want to touch the texture but not the tone, this just happens not to be it. But you have that kind of control now. Okay, so let's do a couple more. All right, so I'm going to come over here. This little section in the nose could probably use a little work. So let me do the same thing. Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Now we're at 42, but we could probably use a little bit more. Okay. I'll leave it over there. That should be okay, maybe a little less. Okay, hit OK. There you go. So there's before, there's after. Okay, we're starting to get this pretty simple now, right? Let's do a couple more here. So let's do the forehead, which is a little shiny and probably needs a little bit of a cleanup. So again, I made my selection, filter, blur, Gaussian it works here. So this is what we started out with, and I'm just going to start sliding it over a little bit quicker. That actually looks okay, maybe too much. There's before, and there's after. So I think we can go with that. Again, let's do the full image. There's before, there's after. All right, do one more. Let's do the chin, same thing. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and that looks okay. So, and that's basically it. Okay. So, any questions on what we did for frequency separation? Any questions right now? Because I'll go over it really quickly with you.
No.
Okay. So, again, let me just briefly show you what we did. We took 3 copies of the original. First thing we did was take the tone layer and we blurred it. Okay, we blurred it. And then we went to the texture layer and we basically subtracted that blur from the original image, and we came up with something that looked like this. Okay, and in order to see that, we used linear light blending mode so that the combination of these two looked like the original. Okay, so then we did our blurs on the tone layer because the texture layer was fine, and then we that's about it. We did an edit here on the cheek, nose, forehead, and chin, and here we go. That's our difference. Any questions? Nothing? Simple, right? Okay, everybody's quiet tonight. And nothing? No questions?
No.
I'll assume everybody gets it. So if you don't have any questions on frequency separation, does anybody have questions on the other tools that we used? We used the spot healing brush, the healing brush, and the patch tool. Okay.
Yeah, those were a bit simple.
Okay, good. All right. When you start using them, you might have to practice on them a little bit. But let's go over to the homework right now and go over what you're going to be doing for homework, and we'll take it from there. So give me a second. I'll bring up the homework. Let's see. Let me see where it is. Hang on. Okay, so let's bring up the homework. I see a lot of stuff's been handed in. I'll take a look at that. All right, so we are going to go down to photo retouching. I'm going to turn on your homeworks here, and I'm going to turn on your what we're going to do a week from Wednesday, which is creating a retro logo. So if you want to see what we're going to do ahead of time, you can take a look. Let's go into the first homework assignment, which is going to mimic this. Okay, and let's go through it. So here were the objectives for tonight. Okay. Oh, actually, it's the wrong lesson. So hang on. Let me go back here to photo retouching. Here we go. So tonight we're gonna, like we did the spot healing brush, the healing brush, the patch tools. Okay, and we're gonna use those tools to retouch photos, which we did. Then I showed you how to use frequency separation. Okay, and we use the blur filters to do that. And then what you're going to do is save the retouched images. Okay, and again, if you want to read up a little bit more about each of the tools, and a little bit more about frequency separation, that's here. All right, there are the videos. Okay, there's the video of the first half of the assignment, and here's the video of the second half assignment. You can see they look very familiar. I did throw a couple of others in here that other people have done that I thought were interesting. If you want to look at those. Okay, and so let's go to the homework now. So the first part of the homework is using those tools. And here's going to be, this is the image. This is the image you're going to try to make this person look younger. Okay, and again, you can use whatever tools you wish. There's some wrinkles over here. I actually want to show you one other thing that I forgot to show you. I'll go back to that in a second. There may be some opportunities on this image, like down here and over here, to use the spot healing brush tool. Okay. All right. Let's see what we're going to do here. Demonstrate use of the spot healing brush tool, the healing brush tool, the patch tool. Okay. So just use whatever tool you need. Play around with the blending modes and opacities if you need to, and save. Okay. So again, give me the JPEG of the finished image, and I also want to see your PSD. So hand in those two things. Any questions? Okay. Next, we're going to go to the second part of the homework. This is where you're going to use frequency separation. Okay. And this is the person you're going to use for frequency separation. Notice that this person has blemishes too. So basically, similar technique to what we just did. Okay? And if you wanted, you can use the other tools, the healing brush, the spot healing brush, or whatever. You can clean up this image more if you wanted. So you could use both of them if you want. Okay? I'm primarily interested in you doing frequency separation, but remember, while you're there, might as well make it look better. Okay? Okay? Again, I just went over that. I think you know how to do this. Adjust your buttons to increase the contrast if needed. Again, you know you have other things you can use to make the picture look better. Okay. Here's the homework. Use frequency separation. This is the big part of the class of these homework assignments. 75% of this assignment is doing that. Then use your blending modes and opacity as needed to finish it up. Again, give me the JPEG and give me the PSD file as part of your homework. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay, good. So the one thing I wanted to show you that I should have showed you earlier was that I actually don't think that I can do it. Maybe I can. Actually, no, this is good. I was practicing this the other day. So what I would suggest is, like, for instance, in this particular image, it may look fake to some people or phony to some people because her skin looks too smooth. Okay, so what I would suggest is using some of the original image to help out with correcting that. And here's how you do it, very simply. I'm sorry, go ahead. Somebody have a comment? No? What I would suggest is go into the image that you edited and change the blending and change the opacity to something slightly less than 100. Now, every time you lower the opacity, you're going to show part of the underlying image. So the reason why I'm doing that is I want to bring a little bit of the wrinkles back because it makes it actually look more realistic. Did anybody see that or not? I'm going to do it again. Let me go back to 100. See how flat it looks? Look over here on her cheeks. I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit. I'm going to lower it to about 75. All right? See how the wrinkles came back? I think, you might think differently, I think it makes it look more realistic. But there's another trick you can use to make your image look better. She doesn't have to look, like she went from, 45 years old to 25 years old, okay? You can make it look a little bit better. Everybody okay with that?
I agree. If you don't lower the opacity, it looks like she had a super dosage of Botox.
There you go. All right. That's right. I'm glad I remembered to tell you that. So again, use that, and you might come up with a better look. Okay. All right. I don't know who made that last comment. Was that Thomas or Alex? No. That was.
It was
Whoever made the Botox comment. That was.
That was me.
Okay. Good. All right. Good. All right. Okay. Any questions about the lesson? Any questions about the homework? If not, it looks like I might be able to give you some time back tonight. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work on getting this into YouTube tonight. I will send an email out to everyone, especially the two people who aren't here, to see the lesson. But I do have some videos that are part of the homework, and they should be fine with what we learned in this lesson. So if anybody has any trouble, let me know. The only thing I would say is I will not be available Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. But send me an email. If I can get to you, I will. If not, I'll get to you as soon as I can. Okay. So I just wanted you guys to know that. So reach out to me if you have any trouble. I think you'll do fine with this by looking at the video. Okay. And with that, I'll let you go. Have a good evening, everyone. If there's no more questions.
Have a good evening.
Okay, good.
Have a good night.
Okay, good. Thanks.
I'm gonna.
Okay, you too.